Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tevora Talks. I am your host, Cash, joined as always by my partner in cybercrime, Matt Mosley. How are you today, Mr. Mosley?
I am great. I'm excited. Got one of my favorite people on.
Yeah, we have one of our favorite colleagues here at Tevora. He's joined us on the line. Lots of energy. I always love talking to him when I run into him at the office over coffee or whatever, but was lucky enough to convince him to join us today, shed some light. But I always like to build up a little suspense, right? I gotta say who it is. But this gentleman been in security technology for a long time. He's one of our lead account directors here at Tevora, and everything that comes down to me and Matt, it starts from somewhere. So it's usually these guys that get it going and hand us down the project. So without further ado, Eric Spitz. Eric, welcome to Tevora Talks. Thanks for giving us some of your time.
Thank you. Very, what an entrance. What an intro.
We need some like WWE wrestling music intro, I think.
I know.
Bruce Buffer better watch out, because I think, you have a second career outside of security.
I just talk for a living. But yeah, let's, if you can, introduce yourself, give our, 2-3 listeners that actively listen to us an idea of who you are and a little bit of good stuff about yourself.
Yeah, so thanks for the intro, and thanks for the invite. I appreciate coming on. Eric Spitz, I'm an account director here at Tevora. I've been here a little over 8 years. I manage relationships between Tevora and our large enterprise accounts. I obviously do have some overlap with some medium and some smaller accounts, but it really gives me the ability to, interface with decision makers and CISOs directly. Those are where a lot of my relationships are, and gives me a unique insight into kind of some emerging trends and some of the challenges they're facing. On the other side, we resell software. So I have a lot of relationships on the partner side. So we really have a better understanding of some of the technology that's emerging to, face some of the challenges around, ransomware and hacking and that kind of thing. We're trusted advisors, and I don't know that I'm a trusted advisor per se. I guess I have some of that, but really my job in its simplest form is to, connect my clients with the smart people, get the smart people in front of smart people. And by smart people, I mean you guys, right? So it's really about when my clients have IR initiatives, I got to get the meetings lined up with you guys. So that's it. Good podcast. Let's call it a day.
Thanks for the feedback back. I guess I've been classified as a smart person finally. Yes. We're finally there, Matt. We made it. I'm going to definitely send this to my mom. Be like, Mom, look, it's real. I'm a smart guy.
Somebody else will walk out the door. Your heads are getting to it. No, you guys are awesome. And it's really meaningful for me and the client. So it's what makes the job fun.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think Eric has one of the harder jobs. We do the technical side of things and we interface with the client. We have deliverables, but maintaining those relationships, I think, is probably the harder part of, especially with the more difficult clients. But that's just for me. That's my opinion. But I think Eric does a great job of bringing us in whenever possible. So that's awesome.
And yeah, thanks for the love back here for us too. We always talk about cool stuff. And I really wanted to pick your brain a little bit. Like I said at the beginning, things that when me and Matt get them, typically, unless it's like a hotline emergency call, somebody got major hacked, that's when the clients typically get a hold of us directly, right? They're like, "Do call us, it's going down," and then we'll go backwards.
I mean, sometimes I would say a lot of the times, and Eric, you'll like this, we get a lot of calls from crazy people that will call the line. And I had one, you'll really like this because you've been on a Matrix kick lately.
Yes,
he was stuck. He was stuck in cyberspace and he needed us to help him get out. I really enjoyed that call. I sat on that call for about 30 minutes with that guy.
The next podcast is going to be this published IR calls. I like it.
Yeah, we should do like a what was that one, taxi cab confessions? We should do like a IR hotline confessions. Yeah,
that'd be so
right.
Fun.
IR confessions. That's good.
But on the other end, when we don't get our crazy callers, a lot of other cool projects always land on our laps. And I wanted to really bring Eric in and say, hey, this year for especially incident response, it's been a little bit of a different twist, right? I think the beginning of the year when SolarWinds got hit, it really changed the landscape a little bit, I feel, and a lot more attention went into security from those people who typically didn't give it attention as much, right? Especially since because it came from a service provider down, right? And it's like everybody's always focused on making your perimeter secure and safe, but everybody kind of overlooked the fact of, well, I'm already letting somebody in my environment. Now I got popped and it's out of my control. I had the best tools. I just wanted to get your feedback. What have you been seeing? What have your, these enterprise clients that you speak with, what have been their pain points, their biggest concerns this year in regards to ransomware, solar winds, service
Yeah.
provider issues and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely top of mind for my clients, right? So, solar, you go back even farther to the FireEye breach, which was really, I think, the genesis of the SolarWinds breach, right? So, we're
Yeah.
seeing these different breaches, and it's really not just giving visibility to my clients who I refer to as my CISOs, but the board, the people who they're reporting to. So
Yeah.
I've been asked by more clients this year to present on, IR, ransomware, that kind of stuff to boards than I think in my entire career combined. It's just really gotten executive visibility. And it's just been, I mean, it's just getting worse, right? It keeps accelerating. So, my clients call me and they say, listen, I think a great example is Matt and I just spoke at the Global 100 CIO Forum.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my clients reached out to me from a law firm, extremely large law firm, and he asked if we would present to the largest 100 law firms in the nation around what we're experiencing in IR. And this was a call that I must have received like 4 times by 4 different people, not to present at this forum, but to present to their board or to discuss with their executives about what we're seeing in this space. So I think it's, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but the exponential growth has been unbelievable. I mean, I pulled up this stat. There were more than 304 million ransomware attacks that hit businesses last year,
Oh my
with
God.
costs surpassing 178,000 per event. I have a feeling that that's probably been dwarfed now, but it's just a pervasive problem. So I think at this point, my customers are smart, and it's not turned from if, but to when, right?
Mm-hmm.
The customers aren't naive to the fact anymore that they're going to get breached, or that they've already been breached, or that they're currently breached. So that kind of directs a conversation to, what do we do? So, I typically recommend there's 5 steps. I think the first thing is identify, right? So like, we need to understand their environment. So I want to bring Matt in. We want to do tabletop exercises. If you're not really understanding your plan, if you haven't done a formal security assessment, if you don't know your weaknesses or areas for them to penetrate, like, it doesn't really matter what you put in place, right?
So is that what they're like typically asking you to say, hey, can you come and just initially see where we're at? Are we ready to handle ransomware? Is that their biggest concern right now?
So yes and no. It's a really good question. I think that as being in sales, I think it's my job to essentially drive them to that point if in fact they haven't done it already. So some that are more mature and have already performed different kind of risk assessments or CIS, security controls assessments, that kind of thing, they'll be more mature and they say, well, listen, we have a tabletop. We have our run book. We need you to perform a really authentic tabletop exercise. So Matt, and I'm going to probably kick it over to you, he's able to craft an authentic tabletop exercise. And what I mean by that is you can't just have the 4 people in information security doing the tabletop, right? You must have executives involved. You must potentially have legal involved. You must have IT, app developers, people who are working in DR, whatever it is. You have to have people across the organization be completely involved. It has to become like muscle memory when you're performing these tabletops, because you have to expect and believe that an event is going to happen. So like, I don't know, Matt, you want to like speak a little bit more to kind of some of the things you've seen when we do tabletops, and there are very unprepared or very well prepared?
Yeah, definitely. So Cash is definitely the mastermind behind a lot of our scenarios. But I think the whole team is pretty we're pretty maxed out on tabletops on a regular basis. But yeah, the trend for probably the last 2 quarters, if not this whole year has been ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we typically will do a technical session and a non-technical session. So we get, like you said, all those teams involved, not just the 4 people in information security, but you get the DevOps team, you get the network engineering team, all of them, right? And then you also get the technical, or sorry, the non-technical teams, the executive leadership, PR, legal, HR, if need be, involved in the same scenario, right? And you go at it from 2 different perspectives. One, the technical side, going through the IR life cycle, like you were talking about, identifying, containing, eradicating, et cetera. And then the other part of deciding what works for the business. Can we afford to be down, for an extended a period of time? Are we able to recover from backups? Do we really, can we afford the loss of revenue, the downtime costs, the legal fees, the additional IT support, or do we want to just pay the ransom? And so those discussions are really interesting to see. And it's funny because when we first started these, Cash and I, we had one where we set the ransom at I think it was $1 million.
It was $1 million. Yeah.
And the client's like, oh, $1 million. Well, I'll just pay that. It's so funny because
flinch.
Because we didn't expect that. We were, we had not prepared the scenario to go in that direction. And normally we have all the avenues covered, but
all right,
time we were like,
over.
I'm like, pretend that's a lot of money for a second.
You didn't pay that.
You're like Dr. Evil. I meant $10 million.
How about $1 billion?
And listen, I want to give you guys credit. I remember you performing a tabletop exercise. I mean, it's probably a couple of years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and it was around pandemic response, right? Mm-hmm. And so, it came home to roost. If you were prepared for a pandemic, then at least you probably somewhat got ahead of what went on over the last 18 months. If you weren't, you probably, struggled and had a harder time enabling workforce and keeping businesses going. So I want to
that's a great example. I mean, that was one that we did where, not to pat myself on the back, but we knocked it out of the park. We, we had researched what LA would do, right? We researched what the CERT team in LA would do. And we went down the line. Hey, schools are canceled. Parents have got to be home with their kids. They now have to work from home. And what are you going to do? And that client in particular, a couple things came out of that. One, there was one person in the audience who was like, oh, this would never happen.
Yeah.
This was 2018.
Oopsie.
This would never happen. None of this would happen. LA wouldn't shut down.
Yeah, crazy.
Where are you at now, bud?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. Are you listening?
Yeah. Did you learn?
But the biggest thing that came out of that,
ransomware next. That's all I'm saying.
The biggest thing that came out of that was they didn't have enough VPN licensing. They only had about 100 licenses for their employees, and that company had, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, because I think it's around 2,000.
Yeah,
a pretty large enterprise. So they went and got licensing after that, and then next thing you know, COVID-19 happens, so they were good to go. But
what's interesting about that too is I said I have relationships on the partner side, so my partners, our software partners, they couldn't even provide licenses because they were so backlogged trying to fill orders when the pandemic hit. People who were trying to get VPN licenses, MFA licenses, all this stuff, they couldn't even fill those orders. I mean, it was taking them months to fill orders, which obviously you can operate outside of a VPN, but now you're leaving yourself pretty vulnerable, right? So that's kind of part of speaking to performing these assessments and doing these things ahead of time.
Yep.
I want to add
what the unthinkable is. Yep. Go ahead.
I wanted to add, based on what you said initially, the teams that you have involved. When I speak with clients myself, after doing the initial conversation with them, and they say, hey, who do you recommend that we jump on these calls? I initially tell them, I say everybody.
Right.
I say bring on everyone, because and some people are like, oh no, don't worry about our execs. They don't really need to, worry about what our tech guys do. And I say, you know what? I think it's good to have them listen to what you guys do, because maybe they have a question for you that they want to understand a little bit better, right? And usually, especially ransomware, people don't think about it.
Yep.
That hey, the problem doesn't stop beyond technology. That's half the battle. The other battle is, Nowadays, they're double dipping, right? They don't just lock up your systems. They take your data and they say, hey, you don't want to you got backups for days and you're going to rebuild. Great. Congratulations. Experience the downtime there. But we still have all your data that we're going to expose if you don't pay us, right? Yeah. And then whose problem does that become? It's not your tech team. The tech team's like, well, my environment's clean. You know, I did my job. Now, like you said, now you got the exec saying, oh my God, like what data was leaked? Who do we have to call? Who do we have to inform? What regulations did we, you know, where are we in trouble? How are our stock prices going to drop right now? The media got intention of this. It's a whole nother layer.
Yep.
And credit honestly, when I do these tabletops and I split them and I do the ones like just for tech team or the non-tech, believe it or not, the non-tech have the lengthier conversations because the chaos is way worse for the non-tech team on a ransomware nowadays, I think.
I think they underestimate, you know, what happens. So like you have to have muscle memory. Everybody has a responsibility, regardless of if you're on the technical side or not. And you need to know what to do, how to do it. You know, what if this person's sick and not here this day, or this person, like who takes over this role of responsibility? So, you know, I think that's pretty big. That's obviously been, you know, big growth for us, you know, being able to help prepare our clients and perform these. You know, I think some of the other things that my customers are doing is around like EDR, right? Having protections in place. Yes. Now you assume, you know, you got your issues. So you got to have, you know, an EDR, MDR, that kind of thing. So my customers are maturing, but like in the event that a ransomware happens, right? If you don't have some sort of EDR platform in place, you can't really even identify what's been breached, where has it been breached. You don't have any controls or any ability to isolate the system, that kind of stuff. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of growth in those areas. A lot of my customers already own EDRs. I think most of my customers are now trying to move to MDR where they can have a managed service. I recommend, regardless of the size of your organization, you have an MDR or MSSP. It's nearly impossible, unless you're a massive organization, to have 24/7 coverage of your environment. It's a Saturday night. All of a sudden you're getting alerts. It's 3 a.m. You're sleeping. And like, now you're responsible to get up and try to respond to a ransomware attack. And you're just not. Like,
we know that all too well.
I've got those calls. I've had those Zoom bridges at 3 a.m.
It's the day after Christmas, and now we have to work.
I think that I've engaged you guys more on like a Friday at 8 p.m. than any.
Yeah, Fridays are nervous for us. It's like nothing happened. Please, nothing happened.
Even when I worked not in consulting for an enterprise, Fridays were always incidents. Always. I don't know what it is. I think people just try to keep it secret. They try to handle it themselves, and then Fridays come and like, well, you know, I want to enjoy my weekend. I'm just going to pass it off to these guys.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I've gotten so many Friday calls for you guys, so you're welcome.
Yeah, but you know, I did like the last one, and I'll thank you for that one. I was like, "Is this something we can handle on Monday?" You're like, "Yeah." I was like,
I did ask.
Hey, but you know, to build on EDR, aside from having that like overview on your entire company, get the alert. I think one of the coolest features that we've used EDR or told customers is actually something Matt taught me on my initial thing. Is like, hey, you guys got attacked. You know where everything is. Great. When you're rebuilding, don't just shove them back into the environment. Make sure you got the sensor on there. Totally. Is it clean? Put it in its own place. Make sure it's clean for a while, and then throw it back in the thing, right? I mean, Matt, you go on it more a little bit, but
yeah, it's all a part of that IR life cycle and the phased approach, right? It's the recovery piece. So anytime you're doing recovery, right, even if you're re-imaging a machine, especially if you don't know how they got in originally, you still want to monitor that machine for, you know, at least a week or two, just to make sure that the attacker doesn't come back. But in this case, yeah, throw the sensor back on there, you know, make sure that you can look at that process genealogy, look at those network connections and identify, you know, weird, you know, why is Outlook opening up Notepad or Calculator? Or why is Calculator opening up PowerShell?
Wait, it's not supposed to do that. Hold on, let me close my Notepad.
And why is my machine calling out to Amsterdam when I'm here in the United States and I don't have any, companies out in Europe, stuff like that. Those are the questions you need to be like. A great example. We had correct me if what the name is, Eric, but we had a fast food. What is it? Quick
serve.
Quick serve. Thank you. That's the industry term. We had a quick serve customer who was only here in the United States, nationwide, but they had hundreds of gigs of data shipping out to Dubai. And nobody thought that was weird.
Somebody's on vacation. Totally normal.
So, I mean, that's the kind of thing you should be looking for. And that's where
you bring up a good point too. I think an important thing to remember is backups. I think a lot of people don't really understand the magnitude of how important backups are in a ransomware attack, because they're easily corrupt and they easily get encrypted. So I recommend customers leverage tools like rubrics and good backup solutions. You have
make sure they're immutable.
Thank you, immutable. I'm going to use that term a few hundred times. No, but it's true. You want them immutable, and you want it backing up very, very frequently so that you have the ability to back up from a potentially unencrypted version, right? So, that we, I can speak from experience. We had a very, very large international customer that unfortunately was hit with a very large ransomware attack, and the backups were also corrupt. So, it puts you in a really tough place. So that, I think that's an easy blocking.
What did they end up doing, that client? What was did they just pay it?
That was our client.
Having to rebuild AD and do all this different stuff.
Yeah,
you were on that project.
It was the one where we had people in France and Australia.
Oh, the heavy hitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's important. I mean, listen, it's weird, but the way that my customers stay the most protected is by doing like the basic blocking and tackling. So like, assume your employees are going to be phished. I would definitely encourage people to try to like get the number as low as possible, but you will 100% be phished. So I would say like use MFA, right? If you can use MFA for your entire network, that is going to make it the most challenging for an attacker to be able to get in. So use MFA. Patch management, if you can, use SCM or Tanium, something like that, patching, and then like network segmentation, or using a tool like Skybox where you can actually see if your network is properly segmented. If you can do like the basic blocking and tackling,
Scalar, the zero trust stuff is really cool.
If you're doing zero trust, absolutely. Like, MFA, Okta and Duo, that kind of stuff. Okta has a massive zero trust push right now. If you're doing these things, you are way ahead of the game. You're obviously, I would still assume
way ahead of the game.
Way ahead
from what we see.
Yeah, there are three basic things. I'm not saying they're easy, but if you do those three things well, you're at least well positioned. Still assume you'll be attacked and be breached, but those three things seem to be the holy trinity, so to speak.
I feel like you need a little bit of everything, I guess, right? And I think like you said, easier said than done. It's not like when we speak with people, the tech guys, they know, right? They're like, oh, I know all these beautiful tools exist, but we got to convince. Right. I don't write the check, right? And hopefully this new stuff is really helping those guys get what they want, right?
I mean, look at Target, right? They got hit, was it 2015? Maybe around there. Anyway, they got hit big time, and then the pocketbook opened up, and they built out a huge cybersecurity
everyone's
team.
pocketbook. They were like the first domino to fall in the industry to really give visibility for.
And I think Home Depot was the next one, and then it was like a flood, right? Like the pocketbook's open, and now if you were to shop at Target, I mean, you're probably way more secure now than most retailers, because they've done their due diligence. They learned their lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, budget is really interesting. I think that customers are getting more savvy. It used to be a challenge. If in fact you get hit with ransomware, there is a 100% chance that you will have downtime. It's 100%. Now the question becomes, how long is that downtime? The question you now have to ask is, what does it cost? I think my customers, like I said, are savvy. So I think their budgets have really allowed for them to get the right tooling in place, and the right process in place. But ultimately, like, MFA is fairly commoditized. There are a lot of organizations like should be able to have company-wide MFA. If in fact MFA is too cost prohibitive for your organization, you're probably not taking security very seriously. So, I agree you have to weigh the cost, but there are simple things that every organization should be doing that can, at least, mitigate some of the risk.
Sure.
Yeah. Or at least put it on the books, right? Get it roadmapped so that you're at least heading that direction,
Agreed.
I think maybe bring it back full circle, kind of where we started. In my opinion, get something going to at least have these conversations. What better thing than these tabletop exercises? If you don't want to experience a real ransomware attack, then determine how much it's going to cost you. At least practice to, say, if it were to happen, let's have these conversations. Let's, get the juices flowing, start entertaining ideas of like, oh, okay, this is what we're missing. How much would that tool cost and whatnot. But yeah, ransomware is pretty crazy. It's evolving every day. Every day it gets worse.
I mean, you were just talking about the double extortion, and the trend now is triple extortion. Have you heard about that with ransomware?
No.
I actually saw today.
Oh yeah.
Treasury Department is going to impose sanctions against specific targets, rather than blacklist entire crypto infrastructures. They're trying to essentially target these like cryptocurrency, to not be able to transact for these different ransomwares. They're actually going to release information in the Treasury Department next week about how they're going to do this. So I think
I heard that SHIB was completely immune to anything like that. So now's the time to shift over to SHIB. I'm just kidding.
Transfer all your coin, Eric. I know you got a couple. You could be a SHIB trillionaire with a couple $100.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the triple extortion is the first is the ransom, right? Just for the encrypted files or network. And then the second is, hey, we've got your data, we'll release it. And the third is now they're going to your third party, your partners, and they're asking them, hey, we got your data from so-and-so. We're going to release it unless you pay. It's just crazy, man.
It's so easy. Like, it's so easy for bad guys now.
We talk about it all the time about living on that side of the world.
just one hack.
But I don't want to live with like looking over my shoulder.
One hack is all it takes. Yeah.
But it's unbelievable how easy it is. Like, so it's which has made it so much harder for our customers, right?
Yeah, you can buy ransomware off the shelf, right? Quote unquote off the shelf. You can buy it on the dark web or wherever, and then tell it what IP addresses it needs to come back to and set up your own infrastructure. You're good to go.
It's wild.
I mean, it's crazy. These like not ransomware, but I was telling Matt on our last episode that Mage Cart, the base code of it, you can buy it on the dark web for a couple $100.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that cost Live Nation millions of dollars. It cost British Airways I think it was the biggest GDPR fine, and that was a couple $1 million as well for something that cost $100.
Yeah, it's tough.
Dang.
Yeah, I think it was like when I for another client that got hit by Mage Card, it was like 1,100 characters was the actual attack, and I'm just like, man, 1,100 characters, one line of code.
So ridiculous.
Because there's no line breaks, but it was one line of code, 1,100 characters, and it just caused so much havoc.
That's crazy.
It's just crazy.
That's crazy.
We are living in the matrix.
Well, there you have it. I guess takeaway. What's the takeaway? Ransomware. Yes, it's a real thing. Have you gotten hit yet? Maybe, maybe not. Will you get hit eventually? I think this is gonna spread. I've told this to Matt too. I'm like, these like high-end attackers that are going after enterprises, this is just a start. They'll keep doing it. These attackers are going to become more and more, and then it's going to go down all the way to the public level, right? You're going to get your mom, dad, everybody's going to get attacked with ransomware. So,
well, that's how it started, and then it evolved into more enterprise stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes back.
Yeah, I think it'll go back by accident because these these ransomwares, they're getting really advanced, man. They like browse, they nmap from every machine, they scan wherever they hit, they try to spread. So like imagine you're at home user, you were connected to VPN, your company got hit, it hit you, now you're at home, and then you're on like your network, your spouse is there, your kids PCs, who knows, you have a network storage with all your like pictures and everything, that boom, there it is. It's like that doesn't stop. Ransomware is like, oh no, we won't attack this guy's personal home server. That's not how it works exactly. So
it's like Agent Smith.
yeah, exactly.
Stay on the Matrix theme.
It's exactly Agent Smith.
Well, look at, I mean, WannaCry was like that.
It was.
Right? WannaCry was going after everything.
So
until Marcus Hutchins saved us. He's the real Neo.
I was just gonna say exactly.
How many Matrix references can we make?
A lot. I love the Matrix. Best series. I love the Matrix. I think we live in the Matrix.
We are in the
I'll
Matrix.
leave it at that. But with that said, hey Eric, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking your time. Ransomware, it's a big topic. Hopefully, if you are listening to this, you got some good takeaway from it. Start having these conversations about ransomware now. Don't wait for it to happen, because like if you wait for it to happen, then you have the downtime. Then it's like you don't want to be making those decisions while your company's shut down. So if you don't know who to talk to, I love doing these shameless plugs. If you don't know who to talk to, call up Eric Spitz, call up Tevora, call up your IR team here at Tevora. I'll start with my shameless plug.
I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Any final pieces of knowledge, anything that you want to plug yourself? Where can people find you? I'll definitely put a nice link. People can find you on LinkedIn. 100%.
Get me on LinkedIn. You can get me at Tevora. Plenty of places to find me.
We'll put his cell phone number. Just call him in the middle.
Call me. I'm available.
If you get hacked, call Eric first and then call us in the middle of the night. The 4 a.m. call goes to Eric first.
Everything's time sensitive.
We'll put you on the rotation.
Christmas Day, get ready.
That's right.
But anyway, Eric, thanks again for coming on. We really appreciate your time. Mr. Matt Mosley, any final words for our lovely 3 listeners?
Like, subscribe, share. We got to get our views and hits up there. I want that YouTube play button, man.
I want to hit. I can't wait. Eric, this is a real thing. 1,000 subscribers. Then Ray said he'll come on the podcast and we can ask him whatever we want. So,
okay,
it's an AMA.
Let's get you there.
We gotta get.
And then one last word of advice: there is no spoon.
Thank you.
Well done. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Till next time. Tevora out.